American Thunder at Six Flags St. Louis is one of 3 wooden coasters at the self-proclaimed Gateway of Thrills. By most accounts, this Great Coasters International wooden coaster is considered the park's best wooden coaster. But do I agree with that opinion? Not quite. American Thunder is a fine ride, but it's definitely a step down from the other GCIs in my opinion. Originally opening as Evel Knievel in 2008, this coaster is rethemed as American Thunder in 2011, and it's situated to the left of the park's main entrance. And this coaster occupies a pretty narrow footprint. American Thunder is essentially a double out and back coaster, but GCI couldn't help themselves, so each leg includes an extra crossover or two. Like all the GCIs built since the turn of the millennium, American Thunder utilizes GCI's Millennium Flyer trains, and I have no issue there. These trains are very comfortable, and the T-bar restraint really lets you experience this ride's airtime. American Thunder stands 82 feet tall, so it's definitely on the shorter side for a GCI. And that sort of leads into my biggest issue with American Thunder. American Thunder just feels slow. And the height isn't the sole reason for this. Look at White Lightning at Fun Spot Orlando. That coaster is just 70 feet tall and 4 miles per hour slower, but it feels so much faster because the pacing is a lot better. Most GCIs maintain their speed start to finish, but American Thunder feels like it's bleeding speed in every single hill. If American Thunder had an extra 10 or 15 feet on the lift hill and everything else was kept the same, I think American Thunder would deliver the fast-paced ride we've grown accustomed to from GCI. Now, even with the slow speed, American Thunder is still able to deliver airtime. The airtime is just weaker than the other GCIs, and it offers you a bit of a breather between elements because the pacing isn't perfect. Going through the layout, you start with a first drop that twists to the left. If you're in the back, you do get a tiny pop of airtime on this drop. Now, in general, American Thunder is a very smooth coaster, but there is one rough spot, and that's at the bottom of the first drop. It's a pretty bumpy moment and quite shocking considering just how smooth the rest of the coaster is. I hope the park is able to fix this spot in the coming years. That drop is then followed by a giant turnaround. And like the turnarounds in Thunderhead, this turnaround offers the strongest pop of airtime in the entire ride for front row riders. Meanwhile, back row riders get some decent sustained floater airtime on the drop coming off this element. You then whiz over a bunny hill that offers some decent floater airtime throughout the entire train, and drop beneath the ride's structure. When you emerge on the other side, you zip around a bank turn and cruise through another turnaround. Like the first turnaround, this element offers some airtime, but it is a bit weaker, and this is the first instance on the ride where you really feel it losing speed. You then crest another hill, and you curve to the left and drop back down. And this is yet another hill that feels 5 to 10 feet too tall, as you only get a mild pop of airtime in this element, and you really feel yourself losing even more speed. You then fly over another bunny hill that is the last great airtime moment on the ride, as this is the final hill you take with an appreciable amount of speed. You then wrap around the first turnaround and line yourself up for the return run consisting of 3 bunny hills in a row. But you do take these hills at a bit of a leisurely pace, so the airtime is really weak throughout the train. You then round one last turn before climbing into the brake run. I do want to address that I most recently rode American Thunder after the pandemic lockdown, so the coaster was only running at half capacity. And it's a fair question to ask if that's why American Thunder felt so slow. But I also rode American Thunder in 2018 with fully loaded trains and got a similar experience. I got airtime on every hill, but it was still weaker than every other GCI. So based on that, I don't think my rides in 2020 were much different. Now, this review may sound a bit critical, but American Thunder is still a very enjoyable coaster. It's a fun ride, it just can't match the other GCIs. And for that reason, I'd give American Thunder a 7 out of 10. For the most part, American Thunder is an incredibly smooth coaster, outside of that one section that I mentioned. And the coaster has a large quantity of airtime. I counted 9 or 10 airtime moments. The airtime just isn't very intense, and the coaster feels so much more controlled than the other GCIs due to the lack of speed. What are your thoughts about American Thunder? Are you a fan of this GCI, or do you share similar thoughts as me? If you enjoyed this review, please consider liking this video and subscribing if you want to see more roller coaster reviews here at Canopy Coaster.